Hi everyone, welcome back. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Eric. When my wife made a joke that revealed exactly how little she respected me in front of our friends, it broke something inside of me. I'd been married to Madeline for 7 years. We'd met in our mid-20s, dated for 2 years before getting married. In the beginning, things had been good enough, although we had our ups and downs. We built what looked from the outside like a successful life. I worked as a senior financial analyst at an investment firm, but with excellent compensation. The job required constant availability, early mornings, late nights, weekend work when deals were closing. Madeline worked part-time as a marketing consultant. Freelance work, mostly from home with flexible schedule. She made decent money, but nothing close to what I brought in. Which was fine. We'd never approached our marriage as a competition about income. But over the past couple of years, something had shifted in our dynamic. We'd gone from partners to something more like roommates. The warmth had drained out of our relationship gradually. So slowly, I hadn't noticed it happening until I looked up one day and realized we barely talked anymore beyond logistics. The emotional intimacy had evaporated. We'd have dinner together and sit in silence, both on our phones. Would go to bed at different times. Had stopped having sex regularly. Maybe once a month, mechanical and unsatisfying when it did happen. Madeline had become subtly dismissive of me. Small comments that accumulated over time. About how I wasn't fun anymore. How I was always working. How I'd become boring and predictable. But in the same breath, she'd complain if I suggested cutting back on expenses. Would get upset if I mentioned maybe we should scale down our lifestyle so I could work less. She liked our 5-bedroom house. Liked the luxury SUV she drove. Liked the expensive dinners out, the weekend trips, the designer clothes, the high-end gym membership. And I provided all of it. Worked the extra hours, took on the additional projects, sacrificed my time and energy to maintain the lifestyle she wanted. I believed, maybe naively, that a good man provides for his family without excuses. That part of being a husband was ensuring financial stability and comfort. That my exhaustion and stress were just the price of being responsible. But I was tired. Bone-deep tired. Not just physically, but emotionally tired of working myself to exhaustion for someone who showed no appreciation for the sacrifice. Madeline never acknowledged that the life she enjoyed came from me being at the office at 7 in the morning and not getting home until 8 at night. Never seemed to connect her lifestyle with my absence. Things between us got more serious about a year ago. There were small digs disguised as humor. About my performance in bed with a laugh that was supposed to take the sting out of it, but didn't. About how I dressed too conservatively. How I never wanted to go out anymore. How I'd rather work than spend time with her. All delivered with a smile and a tone that says, "I'm just kidding," while making sure the criticism lands. I tried to address it a few times, but it always ends with things getting worse. I asked her why she felt the need to put me down, even jokingly. She'd get defensive. Say I was being too sensitive. That she was just teasing, and I needed to lighten up. That if I didn't like her jokes, maybe I should try being less boring. So I'd stopped bringing it up. Just absorbed the comments, and tried to tell myself it didn't matter. Then one Saturday evening, our neighbors were hosting their usual backyard barbecue. They'd started doing it the previous summer, inviting everyone on our street for casual socializing. Good food, drinks, conversation. Usually a nice time. Madeline had been looking forward to it all week. We walked over around 6. Our neighbor had a beautiful backyard with string lights and a built-in grill. About 15 people were already there. Other neighbors we knew casually, plus a few friends of our neighbor. The evening started normally. Drinks, small talk, good food. I had a beer and talked to the host about a home renovation project he was planning. Madeline circulated, wine in hand, laughing and chatting with different groups. As it got darker and people got more drinks in them, the conversations became more playful. There were more teasing and joking. Another neighbor started a conversation about celebrity crushes, who everyone would want to be stranded on a desert island with. That kind of silly, harmless banter. Then this neighbor turned to Madeline with a mischievous grin. "Okay, but forget celebrities. If you could trade your husband for anyone here tonight, who would it be? Everyone laughed. It was clearly meant as a joke, the kind of playful question where you're expected to give a sarcastic non-answer or name your actual husband to be sweet. Madeline didn't hesitate. She looked around the yard theatrically. Then her eyes landed on a guy called Dylan. She pointed at him with a smirk. I'd gladly trade my husband for that guy. He seems like someone who'd actually be good in bed. A few people laughed uncomfortably. Others went quiet. I stood there holding my beer, feeling like I'd been punched in the chest. It wasn't just the content of what she'd said, comparing me unfavorably to another man in front of our friends and neighbors. It was the tone, the casual cruelty, the way she'd said it, making sure everyone knew she meant it even while pretending it was just a joke. And it was the pattern. This wasn't the first time she'd made comments about my sexual performance, about me being boring, about wanting something different, something better. But this was the first time she'd done it publicly, in front of people we had to see regularly, pointing at a specific man she'd trade me for. The laughter died down. People were glancing at each other, at me, at Madeline. The energy had shifted. I didn't raise my voice as I turned to Madeline with a slight smile and said calmly, "You wouldn't need to trade. He's all yours, if he's willing to take the mortgage, the bills, and your attitude." There was complete silence. You could have heard a pin drop. The Dylan guy looked uncomfortable as hell, suddenly very interested in his drink. Madeline's face went through several expressions, surprise, then embarrassment, then forced amusement. She laughed awkwardly. "Oh, come on, Eric. It was just a joke. Don't be so sensitive." I nodded slowly, took a sip of my beer. Right, just a joke. Then I turned to the host and asked him about the renovation project again, deliberately changing the subject. But the tension lingered. The easy atmosphere of the evening had evaporated. Conversations restarted, but felt forced. People started making excuses to leave earlier than usual. Madeline stayed near her friends that live in the neighborhood for the rest of the evening, probably avoiding me. I talked to a few other neighbors, kept my expression neutral, acted like nothing was wrong. But inside, something had broken. That comment had exposed something I'd been trying not to see for months. Madeline didn't respect me, and maybe she hadn't for a long time. I worked long-hour weeks to provide the life she wanted, sacrificed my time, my energy, my health to make sure she could have her nice house and her luxury car and her expensive lifestyle. And her response was to publicly announce she'd trade me for someone else. To joke about my sexual inadequacy in front of our neighbors. To make it clear she saw me as insufficient, boring, replaceable. If she had that little respect for me after everything I'd sacrificed, what was I even doing? We left the barbecue around 10. Walked home in silence. The 2-minute walk from the Brennan's house to ours felt endless. As soon as we were inside with the door closed, Madeline turned on me. "I can't believe you embarrassed me like that." I set my keys down carefully. "I embarrassed you?" I asked. "Yes." Making that comment about the mortgage and bills in front of everyone. Making me look bad. She shouted, "Isterte hier." "Madeline, you publicly said you'd trade me for another man. Specifically mentioned you thought he'd be better in bed. In front of our neighbors. People we see regularly. And you think I'm the one who embarrassed you." Her excuse was that it was a joke. Everyone was joking. I am the only one who got all sensitive and made it weird. It crossed the line. I reminded her, but she claimed that I am too sensitive and can't take a joke. I shook my head. Felt this wave of exhaustion. Not just from tonight, but from years of this. Respect isn't a punchline, Madeline. You don't get to shit on me publicly and then tell me I'm too sensitive when I don't find it funny. Instead of seeing things my way, she told me that it was one comment. I let her know that it wasn't one comment. It's been constant for over a year. Little digs here and there. She crossed her arms and said, "I never demanded anything." It was laughable to hear her say this, yet she complained every time I suggest scaling back. She liked the house and the car and the vacations, but resent the hours I have to work to provide them. You want the lifestyle without the cost. That's not fair, And tonight, in front of our neighbors, you made it clear you think I'm inadequate. That you'd rather be with someone else. That I'm not good enough." Madeline's expression shifted. Less defensive, more calculating. I walked past her toward the stairs because I felt like I've said enough. She immediately asked me where I am going. I replied, "To bed. I'm done with this conversation." I went to our bedroom and decided to take a shower. As I stood there in the bathroom, looking at myself in the mirror, I could see everything. I looked like someone who'd been grinding himself down, working constantly, sacrificing everything, for someone who felt comfortable with disrespecting me. And I realized something with perfect clarity. I was done. If Madeline had so little respect for me that she'd make that comment as a joke, then there was nothing left to save here. The marriage was over. Had probably been over for a while. I'd just been too busy working to notice, or too committed to the idea of marriage to accept it. But I saw it now. Saw it clearly. Over the following weeks, I became increasingly distant, pulling back emotionally. Stopped trying to engage with Madeline beyond the basics. I'd come home from work, make or order dinner, eat while reading the news on my phone, then go to my study, the spare bedroom I converted into a home office, and stay there until bedtime. Madeline noticed, but didn't seem concerned. Maybe she was relieved. Maybe she preferred the distance. We became true roommates. Polite, functional, empty. I kept working the same hours, making the same money, paying the same bills. But the motivation had changed. I wasn't doing it for us anymore. I was doing it because it was my job, and I'm not someone who stops doing his job just because his personal life is falling apart. But I started making other changes too. Quietly consulted with a divorce attorney, a man specialized in high-asset divorces. I explained the situation, showed him our financial documents, all the assets we'd accumulated over 7 years. The attorney was straightforward. Colorado is an equitable distribution state, meaning assets get divided fairly, but not necessarily 50-50. My higher income and the fact that I'd been the primary earner would be factors, but so would the length of the marriage and Madeline's contributions. I'd likely lose a significant portion of what I'd worked for. The house might have to be sold or bought out. Retirement accounts would be divided. Possibly some spousal support, though that would depend on several factors. It would cost me. Financially, definitely. Emotionally, probably. But staying would cost me more. Would cost me whatever self-respect I had left. I told the attorney to start preparing paperwork. No rush, but get everything ready. About 3 months after the barbecue, I'd had enough. Madeline's behavior had gotten worse. She'd become more openly critical. Would make comments about how our marriage had no passion, how she felt trapped in a boring life, but still expected the same lifestyle and never left. One evening, she was complaining about wanting to redo the master bathroom, talking about marble countertops and a soaking tub. Estimated cost around $30,000. I listened to her go through her Pinterest-inspired vision and then said calmly, "I'm not paying for bathroom renovations." She looked surprised. "What? Why not?" "We can afford it." "Because I'm filing for divorce. So any renovations would be pointless." The words came out matter-of-fact. Madeline stared at me. "What?" "I'm filing for divorce. I've already consulted with an attorney. Papers will be ready soon." She stood up from the couch. "Are you serious right now?" I told her that I am completely serious. She asked if it's because of what she said at that barbecue, telling me that was 3 months ago, and she thought we'd moved past that. I let her know that we didn't move past it. I just stopped caring. Her face flushed. She asked if I stopped caring. I told her that I stopped trying to fix this and about trying to make her happy. I reminded her that she made it clear she doesn't respect me, that she'd trade me for someone else, that I'm boring and inadequate. So fine, you're free. Go find someone more exciting. She claimed I was insane, that I am throwing away 7 years over a joke. But it wasn't a joke. It was how she really feel. And even if it was a joke, the fact that she thought it was acceptable to say in front of our neighbors tells me everything I need to know about how she see me. Seeing that I am serious, She tried to talk me out of ending the marriage. I told her I've been trying for 2 years, working myself to exhaustion to give you the life you want while you complain. I'm done trying. Madeline's expression shifted through anger, disbelief, and something that might have been panic. Her face crumpled. I can't believe you've been planning this for 3 months without saying anything. I walked toward my study. I'm sleeping in here from now on. You can have the master bedroom. We'll keep things civil until the divorce is finalized, but we're done. I closed the door, heard her start crying in the living room. I felt nothing. The divorce process took about 8 months. Longer than I'd hoped, but most divorces apparently always take a while. My attorney handled most of the legal work. Madeline hired her own attorney, someone aggressive who tried to paint me as emotionally abusive and controlling. That didn't go well for them. I had documentation of my income, our expenses, evidence that I'd been the primary breadwinner, while Madeline chose to work part-time. And I had witnesses who testified about Madeline's public comment that night. The settlement wasn't great for me financially. I lost the house. Madeline bought out my equity, though she had to take a loan to do it. Lost about 40% of my retirement savings. Paid some spousal support for 2 years, though not as much as her lawyer wanted. All told, probably a significant sum, but I gained something more valuable, freedom. Freedom from working myself to death for someone who didn't appreciate it. Freedom from constant criticism disguised as jokes. Freedom from a relationship where I was valued only as a paycheck and resented for the hours it took to earn that paycheck. The divorce finalized almost exactly a year after that barbecue. I moved into a smaller condo closer to downtown. But it was mine. I kept the same job, but started setting better boundaries. Left at 6 instead of 8 most days. Stopped volunteering for every extra project. Still worked hard, but on my own terms. Looking back now, I understand several things clearly. I learned that sacrifice without appreciation is just self-destruction. I'd killed myself working to provide for Madeline, and instead of gratitude, I got criticism and disrespect. That's not partnership, that's exploitation. I learned that jokes reveal truth. Madeline's comment at that barbecue wasn't an isolated moment of poor judgment. It was an honest expression of how she saw me. People often say what they really think when they can hide behind just kidding. I learned that you can't earn respect from someone who's determined not to give it. No amount of providing, sacrificing, or accommodating would have made Madeline respect me because she fundamentally didn't. And you can't fix that from only one side. I learned that staying in a bad relationship because of sunk costs is a terrible strategy. 7 years of marriage felt like too much to walk away from. But staying would have meant more years of the same. More sacrifice, more disrespect, more erosion of self-worth. I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is walk away. Not in anger or revenge, but in recognition that you deserve better than you're getting. Most importantly, I learned that my worth isn't determined by how much I provide or how much I sacrifice. I tied my identity to being a good provider, thinking that's what made me valuable as a husband. But Madeline's disrespect proved that providing isn't enough if there's no respect underlying it. Some people think I overreacted to one comment at one barbecue, that I should have tried harder, forgiven more, given counseling a chance. But those people didn't live in my marriage, didn't feel the constant drip of disrespect, didn't work 60-hour weeks only to be told they were boring, didn't sacrifice everything only to be told they weren't enough. That comment at the barbecue wasn't the problem. It was the revelation of the problem, the moment when Madeline said out loud what she'd been thinking for months or years. And I'm grateful she said it, grateful for that moment of honesty, however cruel, because it gave me the clarity I needed to finally walk away. Thank you for watching.